Biden is seeking an extra $80 billion. This on top of the other spending. This is $80 billion in extra funding for the IRS to crack down on tax evasion by those billionaires, which not a chance. You just tweeted, they're only going after the billionaire and the wealthy crowd. The government consistently enables wealth transfers to the wealthy. You think that's what they're going to change? Who has the bucks to support the lobbying and their reelection? Really? They're going after that. Biden hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to go after 800 or 900 billionaires? Enjoy your audits.
Yes,
Tell me,
I hope.
What's this about?
I hope everybody is prepared. This is very frustrating. You know, the Democrats like to pretend that they are the party of the middle and working class. And the Biden administration has continued to find ways to extract wealth from the middle and working class. We saw it in the American Rescue Plan. They raised the reporting threshold for any sort of hobby site you might have to potentially get the flags for audits up. It went from $20,000 on an eBay or Etsy down to $600. Now, and this was part of Build Back Better, which we thought was dead, but now is just coming back in pieces. This piece has survived. $80 billion for the IRS, over which half of that, as you said, is going to hire 87,000 agents for enforcement. Okay, we don't need 87,000 agents to go after what was 800 or 900 billionaires. It might not even be that much anymore now that the stock market has gone down. So who do you think they're coming after? They want you to buy into this. They want you to buy in and go, yes, those people need to pay their taxes. And as soon as you give them that approval and that money, they're going to come after you. And regardless, you should pay your taxes that are due, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get an audit. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have to justify every single thing that you do and waste your time and money so they can try and extract a few more dollars from you.
We know from the Obama administration, they politicized the IRS. We also know that they just bought $700,000 worth of bullets for the IRS. That is really frightening. 87,000 new auditors going out to what? Small businesses of America. They're not going after the rich. They're not going to go after the poor either, but they're going to go after anyone who, A, disagrees with them, and because it's now public-private partnerships, any business that doesn't agree with them.
Yeah, this is really, really scary. In fact, now that my tweet has sort of gone viral, I've never been audited before, but I'm certain that I will be next time around. I mean, it's
I was
pretty much
audited under the... Yeah, I was audited underneath the Obama administration for the very first time. So yeah. That was fun. That was fun.
And they politicize it. And the crazy thing are the number of people who gave feedback and said, well, if you're not a tax cheat, what do you have to worry about? And you've hit the nail on the head, Glenn, is that the politicization of this. They're going to come after people. They're going to harass you. They're going to tie up your time. They're going to tie up your money. And regardless of whether you have followed the rules or not, there's a great Warren Buffett phrase that said something along if the cop follows you for 500 miles, at some point you're going to get a ticket. It's the same kind of thing. They will find something because you have to justify it. And even if you are in the right, they still have the final say. And now you said they're loading up on ammunition. So what exactly is it that you're going to do?
So I think this is part of just the impoverishing. I mean, you want to take down inflation, you have to stop people's buying power. The government is spending money everywhere. So that's just going to increase inflation. But they're impoverishing us. If you want to, at 2030, you will own nothing and you'll be happy, like the World Economic Forum's plan is. You have to impoverish people. And so they're taking our money through actual taxes, getting more draconian on it, but they're also taxing us without representation in inflation.
Yeah, everywhere.
Go ahead.
I would say everywhere you turn from every side, there's either the direct or the indirect taxation that impacts you on an ongoing basis. It is the continual expansion of the government and the monetizing of the debt. It is the intentional causing and deliberate causing of this rampant inflation that lowers the purchasing power. Even if you feel like, oh, I may be making a few more dollars, your dollar's not going as far, then they're going to do it through direct taxes. And then the next thing that's coming, Glenn, after this, and they've already started seeding this, is wealth taxes. We've heard, we're going to start, taxing quote unquote unrealized capital gains, as that if that's a thing, or income, which it's not. And there is an $84.4 trillion generational wealth transfer that's going to happen in the next 23 years. This is, the boomers and, those above them who are going to be passing this on to their heirs. Do you think the government's not trying to get their hands on as much of that as possible? Of course they are. So they're seeding this wealth stuff with the wealthy, with the billionaires, so that you concede the principle that it's okay to do it. And that is, in my opinion, what they're really after. $84.4 trillion that is going to be transferred from one generation to another.
So here's the real problem of this. The people will cry out for the millionaires and billionaires, but once you do that, you're violating the principle, and they can come after you for it as well. And you don't have the right, in my opinion. The progressive income tax is morally reprehensible. It is just morally reprehensible. The government cannot print a right to do what you cannot do. So if we all agree on taxes, it's totally fine to say, okay, everybody pays the same rate on my block. But it's not, I don't have the right to tell people, you know what, they have more than you do and I do right down the street in the next block. We're going to have the sheriff go, and they have to pay more in taxes than we do. I don't have that right. I don't have that right. How does the government have the right to do it?
They don't. And just even the rhetoric, I'm a strong proponent of individual rights at the principal level. And you have people like, Elizabeth Warren, who go out and they name people. They name Musk. They name Bezos. We're going after these people. Think about that. Assume these people didn't have billions of dollars and you didn't like them for whatever reason. The principle that somebody in Congress is specifically going after a civilian is so morally wrong and scary. And then what if they decide to do that to you for whatever the reason is? I mean, you cannot concede these principles. And unfortunately, we have so many people who are just basically bootlickers of the state that they say, no, down with this person. And they're the ones who are going to end up with the middle class and the working class completely trashed, because I hate to tell you this, folks, the billionaires don't have enough money. If you took the top 11 billionaires, you took away every penny of their wealth as it's valued today, you'd fund the government for 2.5 months for 1 year, and then it would all be gone. So who are they going after? Everybody else.
It is, I talked about this yesterday, that if you look at what the government is doing, we had the strategic oil reserve full, and it was, at $2 a gallon. And then Biden comes in, and he pretty much creates a new tax on gasoline by shutting everything down. So it costs us $5 a gallon, and we're having a hard time with it. Then he says, I'm going to take your tax money, and I'm going to refill this oil. So now the government is in competition with us for that oil. So we're going to pay not only for that oil again, but we're also going to pay for it at the gas pump, and it will cause a problem. But the most important thing is, and this is happening, I think, with chips as well, the government is becoming the big buyer. And when you're a big buyer, you control the market. And so you control what these companies do. I think they're creating public-private partnerships while impoverishing us.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen this happen, it's sort of a stepping stone to the nationalization of industries. And we saw this happen in Venezuela, which was, the fourth or fifth wealthiest country in the middle of the 1900s. And now the median net worth for Venezuela is zero because they went and they sold it in the exact same way. They sold it with, there's inequality and we need to make things better. And if you give it to us, we're going to make it fair. And, we've seen this story happen many, many times before. We see the result. This is exactly what they're doing. They only care about their power grab. That only works with the elites. Then they have the poor. There will be no middle or working class. It's going to be that barbell that we see throughout history. And that's what gives them the ultimate power. And it is at the expense of your freedom, your wealth creation opportunities, and frankly, the foundation of this country.
There's still a chance that we can turn this around, though, don't you think?
I do. But we have to get people involved who have the fortitude to go in and reset the system. We have a situation where the government, without any, of this magical COVID relief, they're projecting for this fiscal year to spend $5.8 trillion. That's like a quarter of the GDP. Like, we can't have that happening. Every dollar that the government is spending and is taking away from the private sector is just money that's being transferred from one place to another. It's not productive use of capital. And so we need to have people who are willing to not just talk the talk, but actually walk it, to go in and say, this is enough. We have to change things. We can't just kick it down the road. We need real reforms. And, unfortunately, we are dependent upon people to do that.
Okay, so I want to ask you this, and then I have to take a quick break and come back for your answer. I think most people these numbers are so big, they don't understand, and they think at some point we're not going to be able to pay it back, so it's just going to default on it, and we'll just get out, bankruptcy for the United States or whatever. That's not going to happen. We are the one country that I think the world will demand that we pay our bill. So can you tell people who might be thinking, that's not going to happen, I'm not going to have to worry about it, my kids aren't going to be slaves to this debt, they're just going to wipe it clean. Can you talk about that? Because I'd love to. I've not asked you your opinion on that, on which way you think it's going to go. But we'll do that next with Carol Roth. So, Carol, talk to me about this debt, because we forgive debts all the time for nations. What's going to happen with us?
So there are only so many different options, and certainly we could hope that we make some changes and that we can get it under control ourselves. I don't think that's probably the most likely option. And so some of the things that are on the table are frankly quite horrifying, and I think it might be, a longer time coming, like not something that's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, but maybe the next, 15 to 20 years. But it's still a very bad thing. One thing, and obviously this is the current tenor of the people who are in power, is that they will just keep printing more money. We own the money printer, so we'll just print enough money to cover our debts. And, that just ends up devaluing our money, and we end up having money that's completely worthless, as we've seen in other places around the world. So that's it. One possibility is they can actually technically pay the debts, but not without killing the value of the dollar. So that's one thing. A second thing is that go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please finish.
Okay. So a second thing is, a potential war, whether it is that we start the war as a diversion tactic, or there happens to be, another war that we get involved with that comes to a different reset of the monetary situation. If you think about all of the different financial empires of recent times, whether it be the Dutch, the British, then our own financial empire, there were all these wars that basically had this reset and people coming together and a decision, okay, this is how we're going to now have the monetary policy for the world going forward. And obviously for us, that's not a great outcome either.
So that's what I think this is really all about when they say the world needs to be reset. They're really worried because China is on the brink of collapse. All of us, we've all spent way too much money, and it's in everybody's best interest to try to land the plane, but they're not telling the American people this. But try to land the plane as safely as you can instead of just falling out of the sky and working something out. But this is also why I think war is so scary right now, because there is another incentive, and that is to reset the world. That's what happened in the First World War and the Second.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big issue. It's one of the gray swans that I've identified out there, and something people should be keeping an eye on.
CarolRoth.com. CarolRoth.com, the author of The War on Small Business. CarolRoth.com. We'll talk to you again, Carol. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn.